Yeah, alright, guys. Sorry it's been a bit of a while before I've posted anything over here. I've just been, I've been living. I've been trying to survive. Blah blah. But for a return to form, I thought, I need to finally basically give my 6 cents onto my views on Batman. You know, and my views on the Batman film, because the guys who say, "Oh, Batman is no, we have Batman Returns, Batman Begins, Batman Forever, Batman blah blah blah," but there is and there will always be one Batman film that has Batman. I'm looking right here, Batman. That's it. It's not Batman 18, and it's Batman. But I want to pretty much take you back to the inception of inception, yeah, inception to the first time I really got into the whole Batman thing and really trying to explain the importance of this film, because I feel that after many months and many people commenting, I think people need to really understand this film and really understand how important and how much of a classic this film is. And the best way to really talk about that is to talk about the film in relation to Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, Batman Begins, and Dark Knight. That's the best, because of the films that it is compared to, and so obviously the TV series. I think again, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I was never really into Batman as a comic. As a comic, because for me, whenever I look at a comic, the first thing I see is it's visually appealing. For me, that's what the reason why I got into Spawn is because the artwork is still the best artwork I've ever seen in my life. The stuff that Todd McFarlane and Greg Capullo were drawing in that Spawn comic is still the most detailed and the most advanced artwork I've seen in a comic. But then it's like so really, but really growing up, the comic I read was really Spider-Man. Obviously I liked X-Men as well because of how diverse the characters looked and everything, and it had so good aspects, some of the larger graphic novels, but really was Spider-Man because Spider-Man just looks amazing. Like his costume, the colors, and the whole design and his whole aura was just amazing. But when I saw Batman, I was like, okay, why is a guy running around dressed as a bat in grey tights and a light blue cape? As I said, it just looks stupid. So I just said, no, this is stupid. So yeah, so really, for me, it wasn't really visually appealing. So I didn't even really bother to look at any of the stories. But then comes along this film Batman, and I think the thing that really strikes you about this thing, the thing that people really need to realize is how bold this film really was, because we live in a different age now, and I think people have really misconceived how Begins is a really bold and new and because really, if you think about it for a minute, how bold really is this new franchise? Because you have to keep in mind that it is coming off the bat of a horrendous film in Batman and Robin, and pretty much, it's pretty much, if you put a dog in the Batman film, it will still be better than Batman and Robin. That's how bad that film was. But it's like in Batman Begins, really, it's like, okay, let's just make Batman exist in the real world. That's it, really. So how bold is that? That's what, the key word is how creative was Begins, because all Begins was like, let's just put Batman in the real world. Let's imagine if Batman was a real film and put him in the real world, and let's just give Batman a kind of real film narrative, which is pretty much what Batman Begins was. But in a creative sense, how bold was it really? Now, you rewind to Batman. Remember, the only big budget comic book film was Superman, and Superman was bright, happy, was all for the kids, and it was pretty much a balance between obviously the serious first 15 minutes and also the amazing balance of comedy and seriousness and drama as well. But really, it was lighthearted. A very well made lighthearted film, and still the greatest comic book movie, but it was a lighthearted film. It was lighthearted. So really, the idea, even the idea talk less of actually doing it. The idea of making a dark, serious, major budget film on a comic book was unheard of. Really, it was like, no, 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 this is crazy. But you look at Batman, and it's like there's a reason. I mean, for the sake, it's a 15. And it's not a 15 because of the content. That's the thing, because again guys been insulting me, but then it's like, I mean, I'll get into the arguments later on, but it goes back to the visuals and what you see. And again, it's the same thing you see with comic books as well. It's like Batman wasn't given a 15 because of the content, because the content just like, I mean, there's no swear words, there's no killing or anything like that, but it was given a 15 because of the visuals, because of the aura, and there are certain emotions, especially for young kids, that they'll have when viewing it. Especially like when I saw the Joker for the first time, I was scared. I was like, this guy looks horrendous. He's scary, But everything is just so dark. Everything is very gloomy, and there's a very dark tone to it, which means that no, this is not just a mere comic book movie. This is not Superman. But I think like people need to realize that this was a very risky film. Because this is back in the 80s. This was not where you have basically like a comic book movie coming out every time. This was back in a time when there was only one event film. Batman was the event film of the whole year. This was when you only had one film, one big summer blockbuster, And really, the big budget, massive event film for the whole year in '89 was Batman. So really there was a lot of pressure on this film, and I think you need to realize, just how advanced it was compared to other films in the 80s. When you just think of the many films from the 80s, obviously, you had your rare anomalies like Blade Runner, like Back to the Future, and Indiana Jones, but really, Batman was extremely advanced compared to other films of the 80s, And people can talk about, the Prince music, it didn't really fit, but I think that, when you just think about how much pressure Burton was on from John Peters, from the studio, having to get Prince in there, having to get Nike in there, and having to get Batman to wear Nike boots. Burton had to pretty much balance all of those things that were enforced onto him, and he still created an extremely serious film, because I don't really get how people say that the film is camp, but it's an extremely serious film. But I mean, back to basically my personal experience is that when watching the Batman film, it's like the first emotion that I got from it, I wanted to know who that character was. And people will seem surprised because people will be like, okay, Batman, because the key thing is the key thing is I didn't read any of the comic books. I wasn't coming at it as a comic book guy. Because I can understand if you were a fan of the comics, you would think that Batman hardly had any lines, Joker outperformed him, but Batman was just a secondary character. I will understand if people had that. But I think for this being just my first exposure to Batman, the thing that was most interesting for me was Batman. Because I think you have to think about it as maybe like one of those Wild West characters who they don't say anything. They just kill people, do what they have to do, and they may just say 2 or 3 lines. But it's just in their character that they just don't speak because that's just their character. You just meet those people who their actions are their words. And I think for the Batman character, why it was so powerful for me was this was a guy who he didn't have to preach, he didn't have to make massive speeches. He didn't have to basically talk and talk and talk. He just did what he did. Criminals, take them down. Any problem, take them down. Do what else needs to be done. Save the people. Boom, finished. And if he has to speak, he'll speak, and he'll only speak when he has to speak. And again, that just makes the character so powerful, and that makes you respect him even more. That this is a guy who, because then your imagination starts to go. You think, why doesn't he speak? I mean, what is wrong with this guy? And then you then look at his Bruce Wayne, who seems like a very regular guy, but it's a regular guy that seems lost and seems a bit wayward and a bit out of it, and seems like if you could just tell that there's a lot going on in this guy's head.